A very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you're all doing very well indeed, and we are postponing that GBL Rage video because having watched a couple of other content creators in their most recent videos about the egg situation, I want to wage my 2 cents into the matter, because there are some points that I resonate very well with, but there are also points that I feel that bigger content creators didn't actually cover, and they didn't reflect back on previous events and actually how the whole philosophy of egg hatching, certainly in 2021, has got far worse than it otherwise was. So yeah, let's jump into a small rant for a Saturday evening, shall we? This has all resurfaced due to the Easter event with the Happiny in the 2-kilometre eggs. The biggest failing with that whole event was the eggs. I really enjoyed throttling back on the raids, going for the wild spawns, that was great. The eggs, the whole thing with Happiny, Flower Crown Happiny, was an absolute joke. To the point where, you know, I've heard of people hatching 400 eggs and plus just to try and get a shiny, not even a shiny, just a normal Flower Crown Happiny. This is a bit weird considering it used to be the problem with hatching shinies from eggs. That used to be the biggest issue. Whereas now it seems that with events, they're putting like rarity tiers on Pokemon that really don't matter, but people want to chase for it. I feel that this whole thing might jump around a bit. I'm going to try and structure it and see how we go. Let's take it back to when Shiny Riolu was released. Shiny Riolu was released in February of 2020. Somebody behind the camera, well, I hatched it for you. That caused a bit of a stir because obviously the Shiny Riolu itself was such a low percentage, such a small chance in hatching it. The upside of it was is that the Sinnoh week, the event eggs were actually reasonably condensed, and you could actually hatch a Riolu. Hatching a Riolu in that event wasn't the most difficult thing to do. I know I hatched a bunch of them during that Sinnoh week, and also there was an event in April, I believe, of 2020 that also allowed Riolu to hatch as well, which had a slightly better shiny potential. I believe I hatched one during that week as well. Flip it now.
I hatched it.
Oh, I guess we flipped it, didn't I? I hatched yours and you hatched mine. There we go. Now we scoot forward to today. People were struggling just to hatch a normal Happiny. It wasn't even a question of hatching the shiny. Why on earth was Flower Crown Happiny, which was the advertised hatch Pokemon of the event? It was written in black and white on the announcement. Yes, you may hatch a shiny, that's a rarity thing, but it was advertised with Flower Crown Chansey and Flower Crown Blissey, you know, as the new Flower Crown costume for the event. And Niantic decided to go, oh, let's have it as a 1% chance of hatching from your 2Ks. The whole egg rarity tier thing has gone up another level because it's no longer just the shinies. They decided, okay, let's just block an event exclusive Pokemon. And the event was only 5 days long. It took me about 80 eggs to get my Happiny, which was rather irritating to say the least. An update went out, which I'm sure you're all aware, and actually we talk about it on the most recent podcast episode, which will be going up after Snivy Community Day. They added a egg tier list into the game, which is basically just putting Silph out of a job. They took the idea that Silph have been doing for 4.5 years, where they go, okay, which Pokemon are the rarest from the egg tiers, and Niantic have gone, okay, we probably need to introduce this. This is on the back of a couple of articles and a couple of complaints and bits and pieces about eggs essentially being loot boxes, which is 100% what they are, because you are having to pay to hatch or get something that is random within a mobile game. And it's been like that since day one, but the whole ethos of hatching eggs has changed massively since we started playing the game. Certainly if you've been playing the game for nearly 5 years like I have. In the olden days you used to hatch an egg and it was potentially a new Pokemon, and that was really cool no matter what it was. Now hatching an egg is either hunting for a shiny that's specifically locked behind an egg wall, or in certain cases like me and maybe I know the few others of my local players do it for Stardust and things like that. It's a bit of a weird one, and I feel that Niantic have had to implement this fix into the game in order to legally cover themselves. They've legally covered themselves with this, and it doesn't actually fix the major problem, which was the shiny rates from the eggs, i.e. Shiny Riolu and Shiny Dano from the Dragon Week. The shiny rate hatching odds from those were among the biggest complaints. In fact, I think it was the #1 complaint during the Dragon Week. Niantic putting in this little tier list thing hasn't actually solved what the players were complaining about. We need full disclosure on the percentages and rates of egg hatching, not a very loose fix that they've done where you say, okay, there's this one egg tier where you can hatch a timber and a clink are the most common from 10Ks, and then Axew is the most rare from the 10 kilometer egg pool. It's so basic. The reality of it is that that's not good enough. That's not a good enough fix. It may be on Niantic's legal standpoint, but for us as the players, it doesn't actually change any situation. I fundamentally do not go into hatching eggs to expect for a shiny. Certainly the Happiny Flower Crown, I was not expecting the shiny. I just wanted to get the costume. Little did we know how freaking hard the costume was going to be to come by, but as it turns out, Niantic thought it's the most rarest Pokemon that we needed in that event, which is very, very peculiar. I hatch eggs fundamentally just to try and boost Stardust, and now there is XL Candy included in that sort of consistent and level rewards, but actually looking at it, even that isn't a constant, because there's a window. Every tier of eggs gives you a range of Stardust and a range of XL Candy and normal candy. So, and hatching an egg, there's so much randomization that I think we all need to ask ourselves as players, and I'm actually questioning it myself. I've gone infinite incubator only from now on, and even if there's some event for hatching eggs, it can sod off, frankly. And I really urge every one of you to look at your egg stats while you are hatching an egg. I know that Trainer Tips said something similar, but it's a very fundamental point. If you are looking to hatch a shiny, I would seriously advise you not to do so, because Niantic putting certain shinies and things behind a paywall, like shiny Riolu is very desirable, and Ruffler is for some reason a hugely desirable rare shiny Pokemon. So hunting that shiny has become kind of an impossible quest. I urge everybody to boycott the whole egg scenario thing, because it's still, even with their little in-game guide that they give you on what you could hatch, it's not transparent enough. It's not good enough for us as the players. If you're putting X amount of coins into incubators, I'd quite like to know what the percentage was for hatching a Happiny with a Flower Crown before I even put my coins into hatching the bloody things. I know that this is the point where you think, okay, Niantic won't release these stats because they know that if they do, then people will go, why on earth are we going to bother, like I would have, and they won't hatch eggs. If Happiny had been released and they say there's a very rare 1% chance you're going to hatch this from a 2K, I'd have just not bothered. I wouldn't have hatched the eggs at all. No chance. The most solid event egg scenario I can remember was the 2020 Lunar New Year event, when they released Darumaka and a couple of other Pokemon into the 7 kilometer egg pool from memory. That was a really, really good egg event, because you could only hatch those brand new Pokemon from 7 kilometer eggs. Yes, you had a limit on how many 7Ks you could get per day because of gifts, etc. But at least you knew you were going to get something new and something you potentially wanted. Whereas, fast forward to now, this Spring into Spring event, you had Happiny blocked under not only a whole load of other event Pokemon like Azuriel, Baneri, Flower Crown Pichu yet again, you also had all of the other 2 kilometer egg Pokemon. Wooper, Hoppip, Litleo. I have no idea what comprehended Niantic to think that was a good idea, but we know that Niantic's idea of a solid event is very much just, oh, let's put a paywall there, another paywall there, let's do that, that's a really solid idea. It's not, and it will get to the point where people really just won't interact with the game as much as they do. I know that some people hatch eggs and they're an egg hatching fanatic, and to be fair, you're entitled to entirely play the game how you wish. I think that my 70 or 80 egg hatches during that event were a complete waste of time and coins, and I regret doing it. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just jumping in midway through my own video because I've realised that there's something else I forgot I needed to say. When I was talking about the range of Stardust, the range of candy that you get from eggs, and also the total randomisation, you need to view eggs versus catching Pokemon, okay? Catching Pokemon is, yes, it's a randomised process in some way, but when you catch a Pokemon, you get a fixed amount of candy, a fixed amount of Stardust. We know that there's RNG in catching a shiny. Most wild shinies are about a 1 in 450. Some are boosted. Some, like Zubat for some reason, has like a 1 in 650 rate or something like that. The difference is that catching a Pokemon or checking Pokemon in the wild takes a matter of seconds, whereas when you hatch an egg, depending on how fast you walk and how able you are to walk in whatever aspect, it takes way more time. It takes far more of your time, and then you are faced with the reality of hatching a randomised Pokemon from this pool of eggs, which the one I put up in the video was the 2k egg pool, non-event 2k egg I might add as well. You really don't know what you're going to get for walking 2 kilometres, and it's even worse when you think I've walked 12 kilometres and then the most likely egg hatches are things like, I know Scraggy has places in PvP and things like that, but everything you kind of want to get is locked so far behind the rarity tiers. You need to look at it that way. It's like, in the time that you take to walk a 12-kilometre egg to potentially hatch, try and hatch either a Sandile or a Dano, you're more likely going to hatch a Corphish or something else that's rubbish, a Volibee. Within that 12 kilometres, you could have easily caught several hundred Pokemon, maybe over 1,000 Pokemon, accumulated a huge amount of Stardust. You could have used your free raid pass. There's so many other things that you could have done in that space of time compared to hatching one egg to get something that's more than likely not what you wanted, that's rubbish, probably not shiny. That's the way I would view eggs at the moment, is that in terms of time usage, they are massively less rewarding than just going out and catching Pokemon. When you put your remote pass or your free pass or your premium pass into a raid, you know you're getting that Pokemon. For a certainty, you are going to get that specific Pokemon. Whether it's good or shiny is an entirely different matter. But the eggs have way too much randomization in the whole process, and I'm going to reflect back on something that Trainer Tip said in his video. Breeding, okay, I've not played the main series games at all, so until people talked about this I had no idea this was even a feature. They should allow breeding to be a thing in the game, because if you could choose and select what you hatched, then I think people would have far less issues with hatching endless amounts of whatever Pokemon they're hunting. For example, if you wanted to hatch, like Nick said, a load of Riolu over and over again, hatch nothing but Riolu to go and get a shiny or a good one, people would put incubators on that. Niantic still wouldn't lose out on the egg hatching grind. How it's structured at the moment, I feel, it's so outdated for what it is, and the problem is that Niantic are totally drawn focus onto bringing new players into the game, i.e. the referral system, whereas what they need to be doing is looking at who's actually been playing this game consistently and who will continue to play it for a long time, daily. The egg mechanic needs a huge rework, a huge amount more transparency for the players if it's going to be relevant in 2021 and beyond. Anyway, that's me. Back to me. They need to plan their event eggs much more carefully. They cannot put a event Pokemon on the announcement and then block it behind not only a paywall but a 1% wall as well. And we've seen that this has become a very common theme with more recent events, i.e. Kanto Tour with Snorlax being coveted in the announcement on the poster, and then it didn't really appear in the wild at all. Now, that's actually misrepresentation. Massive misrepresentation, which is a whole different matter. It's a bit of a rant, I know, and I feel like I may have missed some points, but let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. How many eggs did you have to do to try and get Flower Crown Happiny, or did you not actually get it at all? I've seen countless people on Twitter who didn't actually hatch it, despite hatching 50 plus eggs, which I think it's honestly one of the worst egg batch event things we've ever had. But yeah, I'd be interested to know your points of view on this, and would you be interested in doing a boycott? Boycott the whole egg scenario thing, because I'm not putting another cent onto incubators at all. Not doing it. They're not worth it at all. That was my vent for the weekend, and now I need to hope that Niantic reward me with a load of shinies for SpydaLog Day. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please do make sure to subscribe if you are new with the notifications on, so you don't miss an upload or a live stream, and of course smash the like button if you enjoyed that video. I promise, some of you wanted me to do GBL. I will actually have to do some GBL battles to fast forward through my level 50 quest. We will get it done. But with that, I will see you for SpydaLog Day, and best of luck for the Snivy Shiny Com Day. Take care, everybody.